Good day. My name is Richard Thelwell and welcome to my podcast. I have been in the business of personal financial planning for the last 15 years. Prior to that, I worked in the corporate space where I assisted companies with mergers and acquisition, financing for projects, as well as other forms of financing. The reason behind this series of podcasts is to help our individuals right across the globe with their own personal financial plans. You see, we have come to realize that one of the biggest topics currently is the whole idea of planning for our future and planning our expenses. These challenges lead us to what we face today in terms of poverty and unexpected illnesses that come upon us, and we do not have the monies with which to afford it. What I'd like to do over the series is to, as best as possible, work with each other, because I am learning also, to make sure that we find a way to plan our lives, our financial lives, so that we can have a far better future. You see, we all like the nice things of life, but these things come at a cost. And as far as I'm concerned, we all were made to enjoy these things. Some of us have been born with the privilege of being able to get these things through our parents or through gifts. Otherwise, others of us have had to struggle. But I've always asked myself the question, why is it that the 1% exist? And where did these persons that are self-made come from? How do they get there? My hope is that through this series we're able to answer some of these questions, and in turn, we too, even if we're not in this 1%, if we even join the 40%, we'll be far better off in our own financial planning and far better off in our income than we are currently. Now, there are some burning issues that I've asked some friends and family members that they may have on finance. And some of these are about budgeting, expenses, how to increase your income. What do we do about getting our first home? What about other major expenses? Unexpected expenses such as illness, right? And how do we increase our income through other sorts of income streams? All this and more we would like to do during this podcast or during this series. The first thing, however, I'd like to touch on is that one of our biggest challenges, and I can tell you it is right across the board, is how do we manage our money? How do we manage our resources? Now, all of us have an income. All of us know what we would like to have, and therefore we have certain expenses. And I have one basic simple equation, and that theme will follow through this series of podcasts, and that is spend less than you earn. If you are earning $1,000, then by right you should be spending less than $1,000. You see, in this society where we have ease of access to credit, especially in the Western society, we tend to spend more than we have. We tend to borrow, to put and spend. And so if we can change, and I'm going to use a big word here, our propensity from spending to saving, I guarantee you that although it will take some time, I guarantee you'll be in a much better financial position. So first rule of thumb, spend less than you earn. And then the second thing is have a greater propensity to save than you have to spend. Once we can work on these two things, I guarantee you will always have excess cash. There's a saying that I have, pay run out before the month. And so we have to recognize that if that is happening to us, we now need to curtail our spending to make sure that it meets what we already have. Having done so, which is our first step, we then have to now look at how can we supplement our income. Most of us as financial planners tend to think about the expense side of things only. But I would also like us to expand our view to looking at our income and how we can generate more income. Most of us do possess a secondary skill, whether it be in writing, photography, planting, knitting, doesn't really matter. We all have a secondary skill besides what we are being paid for. Those secondary skills are what we're going to make use of in order to earn that second source of income. Now, the truth be told, multiple sources of income is what separates the really wealthy from the just plain rich. Income is what separates those that are wealthy from those that are middle class. You see, the wealthy usually have multiple streams of income, whereas the middle class usually have one stream of income, which is our salary. Now, if we can work in such a way that we start creating those multiple streams of income, then we'll be in a far better position. Because the truth is, as we go along, we recognize that our expenses keep going up due to cost of living, or inflation as we call it in some countries, right? So if we can find a way to contain our expenses while increasing our income, what will eventually happen is that we will then have excess cash with which we can now start saving, start investing that excess cash into other means by which we can generate additional cash. So that's the idea. Think about the goose that laid the golden egg. If we can find that goose that continually lays those golden eggs for us, we can then use those eggs and make an income from it, versus the man that kills that goose. Then eventually we no longer have those eggs with which to get new income. I'd like us to go back centuries. Think of the farmer. That farmer, let's say corn, plants his field with corn. What does he do? He does not eat off all his corn. What he does is simply this. He takes his best bushels of corn, puts them down, allows them to dry, and then when it's time for planting the new crop, he uses the best corn, ears of corn, and he replants those grains. Now, what would have happened if he had eaten off all his corn or sold them all off? He will never have more corn to grow back the next year. And so that is the principle that we wish to look at. How it is that we can get those corn, build it up, and replant so that we will always have surplus corn that we can now sell. We can then have those, but then to always be able to keep that turning around. Remember, we are finite. We only have 24 hours in a day. There's so much that any one of us can do. And so we have to be always looking to see how best we can maximize our time and to bring more income in during that time. And of course, the only way to do that is through additional source of income. So again, my viewers, what we have to look at is, first of all, curtailing our expenses, ensuring that we spend less than we earn, and then start looking at how we can earn more. I look forward to our next session where we will go into more detail about different aspects and some of these burning issues that we all have. I thank you very much.